Hey guys, Legendaray here and welcome back to another Clash Royale video. Now, as this current ladder season comes to an end, of course, we're gonna have Aaron back on the channel, seeing how high he's able to push this season with the good old 2.9 Mortar Cycle deck. And as you can see on the screen right now, at the highest point of this season, he was able to push up to 7,600 trophies with Mortar Cycle. Absolutely insane in this meta full of Golem first play, bridge spam, and all of this annoying fireball bait that just does such a good job against cycle decks like these. Huge thanks to Aaron for sharing his replays. He also posts some Mortar videos on his own channel, so I'll link that down below for those of you guys to check out. And hey, while you're down there, if you could please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. Also, if you'd like to support me, feel free to use code Legendaray in the Clash Royale shop. And with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the matches. Alright, so starting off today's episode, we have a match against Mortar, who, I mean, this guy's arguably one of the best players right now in Clash Royale, and he's going to be playing a Royal Giant deck against Mortar Cycle. Now, this is a difficult matchup here. Starting off, Mortar tries to cheese him a little bit with the Mother Witch at the bridge. He's actually very quick at responding to that, and only gets one hog spawned in, which actually doesn't even get any damage whatsoever onto the tower. So again, starting off, just really quick reaction timing already. And now Mortar, he probably already knows the matchup, so that's why he already is beginning to build up these Royal Giant pushes from the back. Aaron knows he can't go Mortar opposite lane because he's just gonna get absolutely rolled, and he needs to save that Mortar for defense. And this will kind of be the gist of this match. You're basically going to always want to have a Mortar to play on defense, but in case you don't, you also have a few other options, including the Tornado as well as the Log. The way you're mostly going to get tower damage in this type of matchup is either by rocket cycling in double or triple elixir, or by utilizing your quick cycle to cycle a Mortar on offense and then cycle to another one to play on the defensive end. Back to the match, however, Aaron, as you can see, he's just passively cycling. You really can't go in with a Mortar on offense without any good reason. You can see even if Aaron goes in with a Mortar, there's just so much that Mortar can play to prevent the Mortar from getting damaged. And here again, very good job preventing that Mother Witch from spawning any of those annoying hogs. And Mortar just, passively cycling, as both players really want to make it to double elixir time. For Mortar, it means that he can build up a bigger push, and for Aaron, it means that he can cycle much quicker to the counters that he very much needs. So now we're in double elixir time, and as you can see, Aaron is going to try to play a Mortar on offense and cycle to a second one on the defensive end. As you can see, Mortar's going to spend a ton of elixir countering that Mortar, so there's no point in trying to protect it. Again, Knight comes down to prevent the Mother Witch from getting the value, and then the second Mortar comes down to distract the Royal Giant. Archers to the side, you can only fireball one of them. Mortar chooses to fireball the archers, and then some skeletons and a log, I believe, will stop any Royal Giant hits from getting onto the tower. And now, as you can see, the match is still super close. We're within 100 HP of each other, and again, Royal Giant in the back is met with a Mortar in the opposite lane. Exact same interaction, pretty much. But as you can see, we're actually going to get a Mortar lock on the tower by just distracting those E-barbs just a little bit. And it also forces out a Mother Witch from Mortar as well. Again, second Mortar comes down. Mother Witch is way out of cycle. Archers come down, but Mortar is back to a second Royal Giant. And this is just going to get more and more difficult to defend. Second Royal Giant comes down immediately. We are back to a Mortar, though, and we're just going to try and defend this as best as possible. But it's definitely not easy. As you can see, we're trying to DPS that down, but look at this, a half health Royal Giant is going really close, but you can see the archers and the log just does such a great job. We're not done yet though. Another Royal Giant comes down, another defensive Mortar. And yeah, now the Mother Witch comes down, and look at that. The Mother Witch spawns 3 hogs, which just absolutely destroys those skeletons. But as you can see, just again, the log doing a great job at distracting that Royal Giant. Hogs do get quite a bit of damage here, but we still managed to actually come out of this about tied in terms of damage. So again, a rinse and repeat. Royal Giant in the back, Mortar opposite lane to distract. He's gonna go E-barbs there. Really, Mortar doesn't have any other option. And the Mortar once again does get a hit onto the tower, which is really all he needs. If the Mortar gets even one hit, that's pretty much a successful push. And so now, as you can see, Morton's trying to cycle back to his second Royal Giant, which he does. And yeah, I mean, Aaron's got his work cut out for him for this defense. As you can see, NATO pulling that Royal Giant backwards, buying his troops some time, and cycling to a second Mortar. It's going to take out the second RG. And yeah, Morton's not done yet though. He's still got another Royal Giant in cycle. Not before he goes E-bars with Bridge. Maybe he tried to predict a Mortar by Aaron, but it doesn't work out. And with 22 seconds left, Aaron has got to somehow win this tiebreaker victory with a gigantic Royal Giant push coming in. He's actually behind in damage. So 14 seconds left. Aaron going in with a Mortar here on offense. It almost gets a hit actually, but with 8 seconds left, all Aaron needs to do is send in that rocket. The damage that Morton has just isn't enough, and as you can see, Aaron is just gonna barely get away with this match, winning by just a little bit under 100 HP. Alright, so this next match is going to be another absolutely insane match. It's against a cycle deck, and not only is it a cycle deck, but it's a beatdown cycle deck with Earthquake. This is going to be so difficult for the Mortar Cycle player. Starting off, of course, you know, just classic cycling. Going and cycling some of our cheap cards in the back and trying to figure out what type of matchup we are against. That being said, I think Aaron actually knows the matchup. I don't know why he would go in with a Mortar in the center as the first play. The most likely reason is because he's playing on top ladder and he knows what these players are using. And obviously if you play a Mortar in the normal placement, a Firecracker would be able to get chip damage on the tower. So here we have an Electro Giant Knight as well as a Tornado. So helps him cycle back to a second Mortar, which is going to be used to obviously take down the Electro Giant, as well as actually take down that Firecracker. You can see the Mortar lands a Mortar Shell on the Firecracker, and then the log will finish that off right there. And you can see Aaron is so careful with his Mortar placements. Note how they're rather different from what you would normally see, just because he doesn't want that Firecracker to get chip damage onto his arena towers. So Earthquake cycled down, and I mean, what can Aaron do, right? I mean, he only has a Mortar in terms of his offensive pushes, and so he cannot really punish just a plain old Earthquake onto the tower. Nevertheless, obviously, he goes in with a Mortar here. He has to try and go for something, and now the opponent's literally just going to try and get that Electro Giant to the tower. That's really it, unfortunately. So, as you can see here, we're going to try and prevent that. The opponent cycles back to a second Earthquake, but not before we get that Mortar for a couple of shots onto the tower, taking it down to 3,100 HP. But look at that, on the other side, the Electro Giant got to the tower for like, what, 1 or 2 seconds? And it's already down to below 3,000 HP. So this is, I mean, Aaron's got his work cut out for him for the remainder of this match. So now Rocket comes down. Now the thing against a cycle deck is that they also can't build up that big of a push. So it's more okay to use the Rockets as a win condition against cycle type matchups. So now, as you can see, we're just cycling stuff, making sure that the log does hit the Firecracker so that, you know, a NATO or something will take the Firecracker off the arena. But the opponent cycles to a second Electro Giant, and surprisingly, the Mortar actually still gets a log onto the tower because they both just walk into the blind range of that Mortar. A second Mortar comes down immediately, and I believe this Mortar is going to take out the Firecracker, which is exactly what we need. I'm not sure if a NATO comes down again. It does, taking down the Firecracker as well as both of those Electro Giants. So in this matchup, you can see how effectively he's utilizing the blind range of the Mortar to try and get chip damage on the tower. And I mean, what the heck? He's 500 damage ahead. Absolutely insane. But still, this matchup is just going to get even more difficult as we head towards the last minute of this match. So again, Tesla comes down here. Second Electro Giant comes down. We've seen this before. He's gonna NATO just to buy himself a little bit more time and help him cycle. Mortar comes down here, but the Tesla and the Earthquake absolutely just disintegrate the Mortar, and Electro Giant heading straight to the tower. NATO comes down just to make sure that none of that gets to the tower. Unfortunately though, a Firecracker does get a hit, and boom, just like that, we are once again neck and neck in terms of damage. So the opponent, what he's doing is working, so he's just going to repeat the same thing over and over again, while it's up to Aaron to figure out a way to kind of hold this matchup and maintain that slight damage advantage that he currently has. So last minute of this match. Of course, we're just going to be cycling some of our stuff. Second knight comes down. We're just going to be logging, finishing that firecracker and taking her off the arena. And 50 seconds left. I mean, what can he do? He's going to go into the defensive mortar, but it either has to go in the anti-earthquake position or it's going to be taken out by a Tesla. Here, the opponent does make a misplay though, so you know what? We take those. And a second mortar comes down immediately, followed up by a rocket. It is the last 30 seconds of the match, and you do have to worry about getting the damage advantage to end the match off. It doesn't matter how big of a push is coming towards your tower. If that timer runs down to 0 and you have the damage advantage, you're going to win the match. So 20 seconds left. Aaron just cycling some of his spells to get chip damage onto the tower. 16 seconds left is all he has to do to hold this match. A second mortar comes down here. 10 seconds left. He's about 500 damage ahead, so he's gonna NATO like so, log, or actually probably just send in one last rocket to completely secure the damage advantage. And look at that, very, very comfortable win there by over 700 HP, taking the match against an insanely difficult matchup. Alright, so this next match here going to be against a Japanese player, and this guy is playing the classic, the popular Golem beatdown. Then the point of this deck is, you know, you're just gonna be going in with a Golem and absolutely trying to steamroll your opponent. So starting off, the opponent doesn't have a Golem in his starting hand, which is kind of fortunate for us, to be honest. But as you can see here, just some passive cycling, and we know this is a Golem matchup at this point. The only other matchup that this could be is Electro Giant or Splash Yard. Splash Yard is not seen at all in this meta, so there's really no need to worry about that. And maybe this guy already knows what he's using because, again, we are on top ladder. So the Goblin Cage comes down here. And normally I'm very happy to see a Goblin Cage because it's a free King Tower activation, but unfortunately Aaron has a Knight here, and ooh, as soon as those archers get cycled, a Golem gets played in the back. So this is almost equivalent to just straight up Golem first play. I mean, what are we gonna do? Well, Aaron's just gonna go ahead and I believe just cycle a Mortar here. He's gonna wait a little bit as late as possible because oftentimes against matchups like these, if you play your Mortar too early, the opponent's just gonna lightning the Mortar out and it's just gonna die, so there's really no point. And here, as you can see, he's gonna be able to rocket this entire push out. And does he actually get a King activation? No, he chooses not to. He actually invests in a Knight to take the rest of this push out. I personally would have gone for a King activation. Not 100% sure why he didn't, but I guess at the end of the day, he manages to defend that push very well, so what can I say? And he goes in immediately with a Mortar on offense. Goblin Cage comes down, and Goblin Cage is such a good counter to the Mortar because it tanks just over 2 Mortar hits, which is so uncomfortable. Anyways, here though, we do log that stuff out, and we manage to get ourselves a Mortar lock onto the arena tower. I believe, okay, just 1 hit, but as you can see, we're gonna get some chip damage there with the Ice Spirit, which we'll definitely take. Nevertheless, Golem in the back, and we follow up immediately with a Mortar on offense. That Mortar does get a lock onto the tower. Barbarrel takes it out, but we can cycle back to a second Mortar, so that's not that big of a deal. So the opponent building up these pushes, Aaron furiously cycling back to a second Mortar. Or, okay, no, he does get that second Mortar down. That was a pretty bad NATO, but I mean, it's gonna get the job done for him. And yeah, I believe we just cycle a second set of archers. We lightning high. The opponent takes down those archers, and now we're frantically cycling. We cycled actually to his second Mortar. All these units are in the blind range, so the Mortar almost gets a lock, if not for that Ice Wizard. Now we log all this stuff out, and a second set of archers absolutely is going to finish off the rest of this push. So Golem in the back again. We're back to another Mortar, so we immediately play it on offense, but now the opponent is in a cycle that they want. Goblin Cage comes down, and the Mortar is not going to get a lock onto the tower. And yeah, now just the classic Knight and Archers defense here. The opponent piling on everything, NATOing everything so that the Barbarrel can try to take all this stuff out. But a second Mortar comes down. Well, psych, it gets immediately lightning out of the way. And oh my gosh, big push here. NATO probably to prevent death damage. Okay, yeah, NATO to prevent death damage there, taking down that Golem, and then the archers will finish the rest of the job. Mortar down once again. The opponent does have Golem in cycle, so oh, okay. Well, I thought you would play the Golem, but he ended up playing the Goblin Cage. Golem comes down now once again. And it's just over and over, man. These pushes are completely relentless, and Aaron has to once again try and cycle back to another mortar on defense. Now notice one thing that he's not doing is he's not really going in with NATO rockets. Instead, he's relying on his cycle units to not only increase his cycle speed, but to defend these troops pretty consistently. And because a lot of times beatdown players, what they'll do is they'll wait for you to use their big spell before they go all in on their push, and by kind of saving the big spell, the opponent has to go all in, and you can just instead use your cycle units to take those troops out of the way. So now another defensive mortar down. Again, now that we're in the final minute, Aaron's going to try and get the damage advantage with those rockets. Log get chip damage onto the tower, Knight to distract, a mortar to pull, and I believe this mortar actually gets a lock onto the tower. Yes, it does. You can see by playing offense with defense, he gets one more mortar shot, and that pretty much just secures the victory for him. With 10 seconds left in this match, just sending in one more rocket is going to secure him a super comfortable victory here. Just needs to, NATO all this stuff back, get even more chip damage, and a comfortable 600 HP win by Aaron to take the win. Alrighty, so this final match I'm going to share today is against a Japanese player here, and he's going to be running a minor cycle deck. So this episode, we've seen all the super expensive matchups that you'll probably face in this current meta. Now let's go ahead and try our hand against a cheaper cycle deck, i.e. Wallbreaker Cycle. Now, I mean, is it really a cycle deck? This guy's got E-barbs in the deck, but that just makes the matchup that much harder because honestly, the Elite Barbarians are completely broken. So starting off here, we're going to go ahead and just stop that miner, I think, from getting chip damage. Yep, going in with a knight there. Obviously, you can't go with those skeletons because the ice wizard would just take those skeletons out. And now, a split E-barbs at the bridge, followed up by a wall breaker, is going to be probably just countered, yep, by an offensive mortar here, taking that down. And maybe a king tower activation, not 100% sure. Actually, no, he just goes in with archers, which will take those elite barbarians down. Now at this point, Aaron not really wanting to go in with a mortar yet because the opponent still has a lot of ways to distract the mortar. So the last thing you want to do is just kind of feed a mortar. Instead, you're just kind of playing on the defensive, trying to catch all the miners that you can and wait until double elixir time to try and really form your offensive pushes. Of course, as soon as I say that, he goes in with a mortar at the bridge, but as you can see, it just gets completely destroyed. Actually, no, it doesn't. It forces out wall breakers from the opponent, and that will actually take down the mortar. On the other hand, Elite Barbarians, Aaron gets a king tower activation out of that, which is pretty nice. And yeah, coming out of this, Aaron actually has a slight damage lead with just the logs and other chip damage that he's able to get onto the left arena tower. And as we head towards double elixir time, this is when the match becomes a little bit more scary. So mortar on offense comes in here. And one important interaction to know is that, one mortar hit and two mortar hits, and one log is enough to take out a lot of medium health units. And here, unfortunately, he lets an E-barb slip to the tower. These guys are honestly so slippery, and they can just slip right past your defense if you're not careful. Anyways, mortar comes down, of course, skeletons and archers down to distracted, forcing out an ice wizard from the opponent there. I'm gonna log retarget it onto that the ice spirit, and look at that, he gets a mortar lock onto the tower. But as you can see, even though we're getting mortar locks every once in a while, the opponent is able to get consistent chip damage with the miner, the tornado, and the fireball, which are not only cards that can take out the mortar, but are also cards that can get a ton of chip damage onto the tower over time. So here, we're going to go in archers here, followed up by some skeletons to catch that miner. But here, the opponent starts going really aggressive with his spells. And as you can see here, look at that. He's going to start nadoing stuff away behind the tower to get those E-barbs to connect. And this is going to be very difficult to stop, especially since we only have cycle-based units. Not for Aaron, though. He goes in with the preemptive good game and just straight up cycles a rocket onto the opponent's tower. So obviously, the opponent's going to try and stop that. So, he's going to go in with the exact same push. E-barbs at the bridge, miner here, and then he's going to try and NATO a lot of the counters away. You can see here, does he try the NATO shred? He still does, but obviously that's not going to work. Does it though? The tower's already down to 1200 HP, and look at this. Heading towards the triple elixir point of this match, we are neck and neck, 1200 HP on both of their towers. So, cycling a log here, miner's going to come in. And obviously we're gonna catch that nice and easily. The opponent's just waiting to NATO all this stuff away, and look at this, he just barely manages to stop both wall breakers from connecting, and a second NATO is going to just barely stop through E-bars. Actually, not yet though, he still has to cycle a second knight, and oh my god, E-bars at the bridge again. Aaron cycled a rocket. Oh my god, I would never I would never have the guts to do that. But as you can see here, a log and some skeletons are able to kite this away. One final rocket, and the tower is going to be going down. So the rocket sent in right now, and wow, look at this. A big push coming in on his left tower, but the rocket comes in just in time, securing him that win. So there we go, guys, some absolutely insane gameplay from Aaron with the classic Mortar Cycle deck. This guy still is absolutely destroying this current meta with this old classic. And hey, again, huge thanks to him for sharing the replays. I'll leave his YouTube channel down below for you guys to go check him out. But unfortunately, guys, that's all I got time for in today's episode. Huge thanks to all of my channel members. You guys are the absolute G's. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below, as well as a subscription to my channel. And as always, this is Legendaray, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.